interesting about sickle cell disease is that when somebody is carrying one gene, they don't have a problem. They don't have sickle cell disease. They can only have sickle cell disease when they carry two genes. And one of these two genes has to come from one of the parent, and the other has to come from another parent. So this is a condition which is transmitted from mother to child, or from parent to their children. So it's not a disease somebody can contract by sitting close to somebody who has sickle cell disease. So it can only be passed on from parents to their children, and from both parents. I think that is something very, very important for us to note. And I think we will catch it up from there, that we are going to be talking about sickle cell carrier and a sickle cell sickler. How do they differ in presentation? How do they differ in the way they transmit this mutation to their next generations? So I think for now, we will have a break. We'll go into a commercial break, but we want to thank our partners, the Ministry of Health. We have just introduced what sickle cell disease is and how is it transmitted. So we'll catch up from there when we come out of this commercial break. Thank you to our partners, Ministry of Health.
You are watching the DOCtalk Show. This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from partners.
MTN Mama Kutusako live in concert Kujahazi PM Nyonyo Mo hip hop kunarubale Kurokanga kumina mnana main kubibira inuwena Ena fefe bosi weekend Kama koma rapu na yinu freestyle Jangola mwana wakulu kutemi kamunganiga sasa liva mchamba Misana na chino gatuli marapu melele Kukinga mtuale bidi Viepi mtuale tano Emeza kakande Emeza vivia milioni satu Downloading a MTN Momo app Osaliwe kebitula tano kubuli chikumi Kutiketi Woguli kwa MTN Momo Tiketi ya gula mtuale gumo Ade VIP Ebini chitundu Tunina debote cruise
See you looking
Mitedwa musente MC MTN Momo Give our establishment the angry management.
You are watching the DOCtalk Show. This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from partners.
Yes, our viewers, welcome back from the commercial break. For those of you who are just joining us now, I have a team here of experts on sickle cell disease. By names, Dr. KIYAGA Charles, heading the sickle cell program at the Ministry of Health. And my panelists, I have Madame Ruth, who has lived with sickle cell disease for 50 years. 50 years. And then I have Dr. Mawanda, who works at the sickle cell clinic in MULAGO. They are going to be sharing their experience. By the time we broke for the commercial break, we had introduced sickle cell disease and the carrier status. And then we are told that a carrier is actually a normal person, somebody who has no problem at all, but they only have a gene. They carry a gene, and when you have a single gene, you are not sick at all. And one thing that's very interesting about these carriers, they are always very healthy. So you can never know somebody just by looking at them whether they are a carrier. You can never, because they are always healthy. They usually don't go down with most of the chronic diseases we have, like malaria. They usually don't succumb to malaria. They are always very, very healthy. So you cannot tell that somebody is a carrier. But then we have learned that it takes two parents to transmit the condition. The sickle cell disease condition is when somebody carries two genes. He's no longer a carrier, but a sickler. But he carries the genes from both parents, not one parent, from both parents. Now, I would want Dr. Mawanda, could you tell us how does sickle cell disease present?
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Charles.
Yeah.
Sickle cell disease, as Dr. Charles has clarified, is that situation when an individual has the two abnormal strands of their DNA that is going to form the red blood cell. And from the laboratory test, that person will be found to have hemoglobin SS. Many of you who have tested already, you see that hemoglobin test that will show AS, AA, or SS. A person with sickle cell disease is one that will have the SS. Now, physically, or normally at home, on the general look, the earliest time you're going to identify that this child could probably have sickle cell disease will be around 3 months earliest. And this is because when babies are born, they are born with a special type of red blood cells that they get from their mothers. So that type is not affected by the gene. The gene only affects the cells that are going to be produced by the bone marrow of that child. So around 3 months, these cells born from the mother will be cleared. And now the child is depending on their cells they are generating from their abnormal DNA. So around 3 months, the child will start getting yellowing of eyes. And this is not a rule of thumb. It can be anywhere, but earliest, 3 months. You see your child turning yellow, but they are fine. They are not sick, but the eyes are yellow. That is a signal that that child's body is breaking down the abnormal red blood cells. So that yellow pigment is a byproduct of the broken down red blood cells. So it is a sign that the body is losing blood. Go and find out, could it be sickle cell disease? The next earliest presentation is pains. Out of the blue, the child will get pains, especially in the wrists and the small digits, or even the ankle joints, or even anywhere in the bones. The child will cry, and this happens commonly when children are starting to walk around 9-10 months. Then mothers will imagine, probably my child fell down when they're trying to walk. So don't mistake it for a fall. The joints will be swollen and painful. That could be sickle cell disease. Take the child for the test. The other presentations is pain elsewhere in the body, especially the abdomen, the stomach. Child will cry stomach pain and does not go to the toilet for long and is really hurting. That is a painful crisis and you should take caution. Some of the adverse complications at worst that can happen, and unfortunately in our setting, we still get children come to hospital with the adverse complications on their first time and they have never known that they have sickle cell disease, such as a stroke. I talked about a stroke earlier and I said you get cell death in parts of the brain. So that part that has died cannot provide electrical impulses to the part of the body. So that part of the body will not move. Your child wakes up one day and they cannot move one side of the body. That is a stroke. So please take the child for sickle cell disease testing.
Okay.
Yes. So in a nutshell, those are some of the commonest presentations. They can also get chest complications. They get cough all the time because their immunity is low, is affected. Remember that when the cells are abnormal, they are broken down by a part of the body called the spleen. When the spleen is very busy breaking down cells every day, and blood is pooling within the spleen will lose out on its other function, such as formation and maturation of the body soldiers. That is the immune system. So their immune system is going to be low because the spleen is busy doing other things instead of working on the immunity.
Yes, and when you talk about the destruction of the red cells, actually, when you talked about yellowing of eyes, I think the key thing you need to talk about is anemia.
Yeah.
Okay? So the yellowing of eyes is coming out of the too much destruction of the cells, which means the blood is reducing. Yes. So one of the commonest presentations is that they will always have low blood levels, and that's one of the key presentations that you'll always have. And you've talked about pain. Pain is a very big presentation, but it's coming out of all these so many things that are happening in the body, which you have very ably described. But the destruction of these red blood cells, maybe what also I need to say is that a normal red blood cell will live for about 4 months in the body, working and transporting oxygen. But a deformed, the one which is mutated, will only last 1 month, which means their rate of destruction is very, very fast. So the body is already struggling with replacing those cells as they're being destroyed, and there's not enough blood that is flowing. So it is a very invasive condition. Can Ruth tell us the experience of living with sickle cell disease?
Well, the experience is, it's not been a smooth road, I must say. I was seen at the age of 6 months. I think, like what doctor said, my parents tell me I first got swellings on my fingers and toes. I was their firstborn, so for them they thought the maid that was taking care of me had mistreated me. So they had to send that one away, and they brought in someone else. So they treated me that time for that, but thinking that maybe they had broken my fingers or something. So, but I think after a week, I got anemic. Like you said, I turned anemic. So they had to take me to MULAGO, and that's when they did the first test, and they found out I had sickle cell disease. Wow. So from that time, it was too hard because you could never even hear a doctor talk about sickle cell disease. Actually, for them, they tell me that the doctor who diagnosed me just told them that they had to break up because then they would never have no more children, and that they shouldn't waste much money on me because I was not going to grow.
Interesting.
So he expected me to die like within the first 2 years, and he told them that in case she passes those 2 years, maybe take her just to a primary school, and that will be okay. Fortunately or unfortunately for me, my dad had other children before he finally settled with my mom, and none of them had sickle cell disease. So when they got home, my dad convinced my mom and told her that, you know what, since this girl is going to die early, we should live together, love her so much, give her everything, she dies a happy child. My father is a hero. Very few fathers even today would say such a thing. They would just run away. So they stuck in there, and fortunately they had 4 of us, but even in the 4, I'm one who had sickle cell disease.
So after you, they got
3 other children.
So they didn't take that advice of the doctor.
No, they didn't.
Sometimes doctors give wrong advice.
Yeah, so we started our rough journey. By then the clinic was only running 2 days in a week. It was always Monday and Tuesday. But like, they were very desperate for my life, so we would keep the appointments diligently, but also they would take me to all the traditional healers and herbalists that you can think of. They would also take me to the pastors. The crusades that were there, the Osborne crusades, I think those were the first crusades. Then they would take me to Kololo so that I get cured. And then from my father, for him, he was telling me, don't go to school. I'll do everything for you. You don't need to struggle. Because I think at the back of his mind, he knew that I'm going to die somehow, somewhere. But on the other hand, my mom was a very tough mother, very strict. She will tell you, for me, don't tell me crap. You have sickle cell disease, so what? You're a normal person. You have to survive with or without the disease. You have to be disciplined. You have to learn all the housework that a woman does. Actually, she would also challenge me that if I come to school, you're not class monitress, you're not a prefect, I'm going to call an assembly, I'll beat you from there. And I knew she would do that. So from primary level for me, I'd always go and stand for leadership.
Your mother beats you, eh?
Yeah, otherwise she would come and beat me up. But she was so strict. I was in a day school from nursery school to senior 6. But I remember I had the biggest bag in the school, because every morning she had to make for me 3 liters of juice. I would take a 3-liter jerrycan of juice at school, and then I would take a big flask of food. Then I had to come and do fruits in the evening and take the fruits and vegetables. That was a must do. So, and she learned the medicine so fast. There are times when you would get a crisis and she's like, no, I think today we shall manage.
Wow. Your parents were little heroes.
Yeah.
Especially their father.
Yeah.
And the father would just walk.
Of course.
But just imagine you being told that this child is not going to live long. Eh? You wouldn't even want to waste your resources on that child, but you say, let us love her,
And
give
she
her
died as a
everything she
child.
wants, so that she dies. Just imagine, what a hero. Thanks to those great parents.
Yes,
And I
they
hope
were.
a parent out there will pick a leaf from this experience of these parents. Because many times when parents discover they have a child, there's a blame game.
Yeah.
Now that your father already had children who were who
would
didn't have
have
a
run
condition,
away.
could have pointed fingers to your mother,
Yeah.
and would have blamed your mother for everything and walked off to go and find other women. But those were heroes, and I pray that a father out there, you can pick a leaf from that father and a leaf from that mother, a mother out there. The mother actually was very strict on her,
Very
that you have to be a normal person. The father was saying, don't go to school because you're going to struggle for nothing. The mother said, you have to go to school. Not only go to school, but you have to be a prefect. Just imagine. And she actually did exactly as the mother did to her. So please, parents, don't give up on your children because they have sickle cell disease. There is hope. I know we'll get Ruth back again to tell us how she's been able to live for 50 years. Did she go to school? Did you? How far did you study?
I studied up to MUKIIBI University.
Wow.
And I graduated as a secondary school teacher.
Can you imagine? So you see, she was able to go to school, but you heard what the parents did. They would give her 3 liters of juice. They would give her a flask of food. She would have fruits and vegetables at home. Parents, this is very critical. Before we talk about these very high-tech medications and interventions, there are those simple interventions. Good feeding for a child with sickle cell disease can do
Make
a
a
whole
difference.
big difference. So I think you are a living testimony, a very big inspiration, and I think somebody who has sickle cell out there, don't lose heart. Don't give up on your dreams. You can still live and have all your dreams fulfilled. Have you ventured into having a child?
Yes.
How do you feel?
No. I've been married for 21 years.
Wow.
And I have 3 children. My oldest is 19 years, followed by an 11-year-old, and my baby is 8 years.
Wow. You don't need any more inspiration. Every one of us can believe it is possible. Yeah. You can actually have a child with sickle cell disease grow and live to fullness of life and aspirations in life. So please don't give up on your children. And those of you who are sick out there, don't give up on your dreams. The key things which we are going to see, a part of which she has explained, is how to take care of yourself, how to take care of this baby, of this child, feed them well, give them the comfort, the assurance, and the love that will give them the confidence to live on every day. We want to go for a commercial break, but before we do that, we want to thank our partners, our sponsors, the Ministry of Health, who have given us this opportunity to share with you this experience. Thank you. We shall catch up from there.
You are watching the DOCtalk Show. This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from partners.
Stay fresh. You wanna come preach and be my guest. Lighting. Lighting. I did make a lighting up.
Ituba Uganda is here, the new licensed operator of the Uganda National Lottery. They have been appointed by the National Lottery and Gaming Regulatory Board as the official operator for a 10-year period, based on their operational excellence in other regions of Africa.
The National Lotteries and Gaming Regulatory Board is dedicated to ensuring that the lottery is transparent, well-managed, and generates substantial revenue for national projects.
Ituba Uganda was selected through a rigorous process for their proven experience, financial stability, and capacity for successful lottery operations.
Ituba Uganda will utilize advanced technology and expertise to offer an unmatched gaming experience for Ugandans. All funds will support vital government initiatives such as infrastructure, education, healthcare, and sports, with a special emphasis on preparing for AFCON 2027.
So, join Ituba Uganda on this journey
of changing and transforming lives.
You are watching the DOCtalk Show.
This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from partners.
Well, welcome back from the commercial break. But at the point we broke off, I think the discussion was very interesting, very intriguing, of a special group of parents who are rare to find these days. But somebody out there listening to us, I pray that you become one of the like of these parents. When they discovered that they had a child with sickle cell disease, the dad came, talked to the mom, and said, you know, we have had this child, the doctor said he's not going to live long, but let us stick together, love this child, do her everything she would love to have, so that she dies a happy child. That is not common of the fathers of today. And she's telling us that her father already had other children. So the father would have moved on, but he didn't. So the fathers out there, please don't move on just because you have had a baby with sickle cell disease. So let us be good parents. Let us learn from these hero parents that we have seen in the life of Ruth, so that we take care of these children with sickle cell disease. As you know, and as we have said, no one applies for sickle cell disease. This is not a disease that you go looking for. It's not like HIV, that it was out of your joy and whatever, then you contracted HIV. Every child who has HIV, they had no part to play in this. It was something that even you parents, probably you didn't know completely, but it is just something that took all of you by surprise. Please, can you love those children? Can you believe in them and give them confidence to live on? And you know, sickle cell is a problem that is with us, very prevalent. And we haven't yet shared the statistics, but I can give you some statistics that we have over 8 million Ugandans with sickle cell gene, more than 8 million. More than 8 million Ugandans with sickle cell gene. 1 out of every Ugandan, 1 out of 7 of all Ugandans have got a sickle cell gene. 1 out of 7 has a sickle cell gene nationally. But there are districts where you find the burden is actually higher. A district like in the going up to Teso. Yeah, they are 1 out of every 4 or 5 people have got a sickle cell gene. So there's none of us who can say that they can never have a sickle cell in their family. You are just naive, but you already have a sickle cell gene in your family. So it's not taboo, it's not a death sentence for one to have sickle cell disease. We have seen a living testimony that somebody has had sickle cell disease for 50 years. Has got children, has studied, and is a graduate. What else do you have? What else do you need to know that actually sickle cell, somebody can live with sickle cell disease and live a fulfilled life. Dr. Mawanda, can you tell us the basic management before we go into home care? Before we continue with her experience, tell us, what do we manage in sickle cell disease? Because as we know, sickle cell disease is not curable. We manage the symptoms and stabilize the patient. What are those things that we manage, and what are those basic management tools?
Thank you so much, Dr. Charles, and thank you, Ruth, for sharing. This is for sure inspiring. Yes, sickle cell disease is not a death sentence, despite the fact that it's not curable. But with advancing technology, it will be curable, perhaps, but still you can transmit the gene, even after you've healed as an individual. So in the care of persons with sickle cell disease, we have specific goals. They have particular goals, and it is a team effort. And also, it is comprehensive and holistic. We look at the patient as a person with sickle cell disease. We don't look at them as sickle cell disease. So the goals of treatment of these persons: number one, we want to prevent a crisis from happening. A crisis are those times, those scenarios that will come that the child will be in so much pain. They will lose a lot of blood and become pale, so that they will need a transfusion. We want to avoid those. And some of the basic things that are going to minimize chances of a child getting crisis or a person getting crisis is making sure that they are well hydrated. They have to drink much enough. Every time the body is well hydrated, it minimizes the chances of that cell from changing from the round shape to the sickle shape. Number two, stress. Anything that is going to cause stress, from psychological stress to the stress of the body caused by any illness or physical stress or straining, can spark off a crisis. So we do those simple things to minimize chances of getting a crisis. After that, we want to minimize the chances of getting lifelong complications. That is why we screen for some complications like stroke. We do tests in the brain that can predict that this person could probably get a stroke. So that informs how we advance the doses of the different medicines I'm going to talk about and minimize the chances of getting a stroke. Number three, we want to improve the quality of life. Ruth's life is all I need to describe this.
I know.
You need to have your dreams because you are a person, you're not the disease. You're a person and you have to live your life as a person. So us, as the medical care team, all the cadres, like I said, it's a team: doctors, nurses, pediatricians, neurologists, physiotherapists, and even mothers are the first doctors and fathers at home. So we want to improve the quality of life. We want to see you going to school and performing well in school. We want to see you getting married and having children, if you wish. Number three is prolonging survival. We want you to live for as many years as possible. So when you go to the daily care of medications, now the medical care, there are medications that help the body to produce more blood cells, more red blood cells, and that is folic acid. It helps the bone marrow to produce more because, like Dr. Charles said, these affected red blood cells will last for 90 days instead of the 120 days that should be normal. So you need to help the body produce more, even if it's losing more. But remember, you have done things that minimize the losses as you improve the production. Number two, we have medications that help the red blood cell to resist the changes. It affects the wall of red blood cell, that is hydroxyurea. It helps the wall of the red blood cell to resist those changes becoming sickled. It helps it to retain more water so that it does not get dehydrated to change. It helps it to retain its strength of binding to oxygen so that it delivers enough oxygen to your body. Yes, number 3, we need to give prophylaxis, what we call prophylaxis, prevention of chest infections. Remember, we said the spleen is not functioning well, the immunity is low. So we give you those penicillin V medications to help prevent chances of getting chest infections. We don't want you to get malaria, because malaria is going to stress your red blood cells and even give you more anemia. So we give you the Fancida, you take it every month, minimize the chances of getting malaria.
Okay.
The other treatments will act according to the situation,
to the
according
symptoms.
to the complication you come
Okay.
with. If you're anemic, you're given blood, we transfuse you according to the need.
If you have pain, we give you
The painkillers.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Mawanda. Ruth, tell us, what do you do at home to avoid those complications?
Yes, to avoid these complications, I think there are about 7 or 8 things that these are must-dos every day at home. First of all, doctor has talked about rehydration. For children below 13 years, we tell them to take 3 liters of fluids a day. When we say 3 liters, we don't mean water, but we mean everything: milk, porridge, tea, anything that a child takes in.
But not
as long as it's not alcohol. No, not alcohol. Then for us, who are 13 years and above, we take 5 liters a day. So as long as you know you have taken your 5 liters today, your eye will not be yellow tomorrow. Actually, if it is yellow tomorrow, we always tell people, if you've taken your 5 liters today and you find you have a yellow eye, go for a medical checkup, even if you're not sick. Because then that suggests either there is an infection coming in or malaria is already in, it hasn't put you down. Otherwise, if you rehydrate, you'll have a clear eye. Then for us who are 13 years and above, we take 5 liters a day. So if your body is rehydrated very well, then you're unlikely to get pains due to dehydration. And sometimes if you find your eye yellow, like following day when you have taken your 5 previous day, you should be going in for a medical checkup, because you never know what is happening in there. And then we prevent malaria. That's a must do. We always tell people to use the mosquito net, to use the mosquito repellent for that time before you sleep, but also to take the monthly Fancida tablets for those who don't react to sulfurs. If you react to sulfurs, then you're going to be taking weekly chloroquine. Then the other thing that we do, or I do at home, I have to take fresh fruits and vegetables on a daily basis. I actually normally tell parents that maybe you don't have money to buy those fresh fruits and vegetables on a daily, but can you even plant them in your compound? Sometimes in our compounds we have trees. Why would you have trees that are not giving you fruits, and then you have to buy the vegetables throughout the year? Because sometimes you don't have money. So plant them so that you have them. You buy on a few occasions. And then you need to prevent from the cold weather. These days the weather has changed. Sometimes it's hot, but there's that cold breeze which actually brings in the pain. So we normally tell people to keep warm, because almost 99% of hospital admissions come from the cold. When you ask them 24 hours before you got the pain, what happened? People will tell you, I went to the beach, I washed daddy's car, and then I woke up so early, I took a cold bath, I washed the dishes. So it's basically the cold. So try as much as possible to keep warm. We tell people, even if you have to swim, come out, dress up warm, and if you can take a warm cup of tea after swimming, that's okay. So you can survive. And then the other thing that I also do, I prevent stress. For me, my biggest trigger for pains is stress. When I'm stressed, sometimes even MULAGO will tell me, Ruth, we can't manage, because they'll give me everything, but I'll stay in that pain. Until sometimes I take maybe anti-stressors. That's when I try to calm down as I take the painkillers and other medications. So for me, I just decide not to be stressed. I tell myself nothing is worth my life, because looking at the road from 6 months to 50 years, I don't want to risk my life. So whether it's about marriage or about children, about my family, I'll let go because I know what it means if I'm stressed.
Wow.
So you don't need to stress. And even anxiety triggers pain. So if you're too excited again, you can also get a crisis. So I'm one person also who doesn't get so anxious about things.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I have a question
for those life skills.
I have a
Yes?
question for her. You talked about drinking. Is it true that these drinks that are red in color add blood? They end up working because they hydrate.
They are rehydrating.
Yeah.
It's the same with these herbalists.
Yeah.
Some of them are giving them the basic things. They can't even give you grass.
Yeah.
But they're giving you a full jerry can, 10 liters, you're rehydrating.
You're hydrated.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. I liked especially the point of avoiding stress. You know, avoiding stress. You know, there are so many things to stress you out. But I think you really need to relieve yourself of all those. You know, there are things you think about and you worry about, but you can change nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
So your life is worth so much. So don't give yourself away into a dream of worries and thoughts, thinking about things you cannot change. So I think find life skills that help you to avoid stress. And those practical things, maybe you sing a song, maybe you read a verse in the Bible, those things that help you to give you hope and make you forget some of the worries and anxieties that you have, so you avoid stress. Thank you very much. We'll go into our commercial break. But at this point, I'm encouraging you to send your questions to the social media platforms that you see down there on your screen. Please use those handles and send in any question that you have related to our discussion. Thank you very much.
You are watching the DOCtalk Show.
This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from partners.
You are watching the DOCtalk Show.
This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from partners.
Well, welcome back from the commercial break. We are back again into our discussion on sickle cell disease, and as I already introduced this team, I coordinate the sickle cell program at the Ministry of Health. I'm Charles KIYAGA. Madam Ruth is a sickle cell patient who has lived with sickle cell for 50 years. And then Dr. Mawanda works at the sickle cell clinic. So we've been sharing at MULAGO Sickle Cell Clinic, we've been sharing the experience. And I know you've enjoyed the discussion, and I told you as we are ending the last session that you can start sending in your questions using the social media handles that you see down on your screen. Yes, as we ended, I just want to indicate this as we begin again, that according to statistics, about 20,000 babies each year are born with sickle cell disease in Uganda. Each year, 20,000. If we do nothing, 80 to 90% will not make it to 5 years. Okay? But what we need to do is, how do we reduce this number? We really need to reduce the number of sicklers born each year. How do we do that? The best way to do this is to do premarital testing and counseling, or preconceptual testing and counseling, so that you get to know whether you have the potential to have a child with sickle cell disease. And then you decide whether to continue. If you choose to continue, at least you'll have an informed decision, and then whatever comes in, you will take responsibility for it. But where you can avoid that, you can choose not to go into parenting if especially both of you are carrying this sickle cell gene and you have the potential to pass it on to your children. So we need to close the tap. And the best way to do that is to screen before we get a partner we are going to do parenting with or childbearing with. So we encourage you, do premarital testing and counseling. And as the Ministry of Health, we are doing a lot to make sure that we intervene in the space, and we are doing newborn screening in those hotspots. In the districts or regions I already talked about with very high burden, we have already set up sickle cell screening and clinics in these regions, so that children born in these regions have the benefit of having their babies screened within the first few months or days of life. So hospitals within Acholi and Lango region, especially the big hospitals, please go there and have your baby tested for sickle cell disease. Hospitals within the Busoga, Teso, Bugisu, Bugweri region, go there, you will find sickle cell screening happening, and it is free. We are offering it free. And then even in the central region, we have sickle cell clinics almost in most of the regional hospitals, especially in those high burden regions. And then we have sickle cell clinics also in other big hospitals in these same regions. As we speak now, we have over 120 sickle cell clinics across the country. And in all these sickle cell clinics, we are doing newborn screening. Please check with your hospital within your region and find out what services are there for sickle cell. And if your child has not been tested for sickle cell and they are below 2 years, they can benefit to do a sickle cell test for free. Any child within those regions that I talked about, Acholi, Lango, Teso, Bugisu, Busoga, Bugweri regions, and then come to central Buganda here, we are doing newborn screening for free because these are hotbeds for this condition. Go and find out if your child has never been tested, they are below 2 years, just go and say, I want my child checked for sickle cell, and you'll have it free. And so many other interventions that we are doing, and as we are planning to have the World Sickle Cell Day, we will be telling you more about this. As we are winding up, I will ask my guests to, each one of them, give a wrap up for 1 minute. Dr. Mawanda, what is the last message in 1 minute?
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Charles. My first message is going to be a message of appreciation to all the people who have given in an effort to help us know that this is a problem. First to you, Dr. Charles, the studies you've done to show us the prevalence and the magnitude of this problem. Otherwise, we would not have taken it so serious. Together with the other researchers, Professor Ndezi, the late Professor Ndugwa, we thank you so much. I want to thank the clinical team, the healthcare workers that are taking care of these children, and I want to implore you to have more empathy. Let us look at these as persons, but not as the disease. And then to the general public, please, you should be aware that the people suffering with sickle cell disease are going to increase in number by more than 1/3 by the year 2050 if we don't stop it. And the only route these numbers are growing, like Dr. Charles said, is through having children. You should be aware of your status before you can have children and make the right decision. Let us support people who are suffering with sickle cell disease. Let us not stigmatize them. Let us encourage them. Let us help them attain their full life potential. Thank you.
UBC, inspiring Uganda. Up next.